Hare Krishna, devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Gurudev, all glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada, and all glories to you all. Hare Krishna, thank you for being here today. And as usual, we're going to continue with our SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM discuss. And today we are blessed to have His Grace SALIKA Prabhu step in for today. His Holiness Bhakti Charankrishna Maharaj was originally scheduled to speak, but he is engaged in some other devotional activity somewhere else. And as such, he is unable to be here today. So His Grace SALIKA Prabhu volunteered to step in today. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for doing that. And if you are ready, we'll put the verse on the screen and we may begin. Hare Krishna. Salika Prabhu, can you unmute? Let's see if your microphone is working right. You're still muted.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you. Very well.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
All right. So we'll put the verse on the screen and you may begin.
Yeah, I think I will use a slide. I'll put it first on the slide and then.
Okay, then you use it then.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayana Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nasta Aprayesu Abhadrisu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavatam Itam Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. We are reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 18. We'll be reading from text number 8. As Sriman Sadi Prabhu have said, His Grace, His Holiness Bhakti Charankrishna Swami Maharaj is supposed to be giving the class today. But somehow or the other, he has to travel. And I got the opportunity of rendering this service. So we welcome you all to this auspicious moment of the day. So the text we are reading is 1st Canto, chapter 18, text number 8. So I'll read the Sanskrit text and then we'll continue. Kim no vale surena kalina dirabiruna apramata pramate shuhu yovriko nirishu bhatate. Kim no vale surena kalina dirabiruna apramata pramateshu yovriko nirishu bhatate. Word for word translation. Kim, what? No, maybe. Balishu, among the less intelligent person. Surena, by the powerful. Kalina, by the personality of Kali. Dira, self-controlled. Brurunaha, by one who is afraid of. Apramataha, one who is careful. Pramateshu, among the careless. Ya, one who. Vritaha, tiger. Nrishu, among men. Vartate, exist. Let me read from the Prabhupada's purport here because the other purport is highlighted. It's Srila Prabhupada's translation. Maharaj Parikshit considered that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled will have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless person. Purport by Evangelist Prabhupada. Those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. Unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. Those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a saner condition in society unless we are prepared to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit. For example, propagation of the devotional service of the Lord to the common man. Hare Krishna. Omagyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shakshi Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Nama Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopi Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Krishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakarpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Sivascha Patitanam Pavashnebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srinivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Kimnu Baleshu Surenaha Kalina Diruna Apramata Pramateshu Yovrikshu Nrishu Vatate. Maharaj Parikshit considered that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but that those who are self-controlled will have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless person. Hare Krishna. So before starting to speak, I want to offer my respectful obeisance to the Supreme Personality of God, Narayan, who is the supreme human being, and to Narayan Rishi, the supreme human being. To Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, and to all of the acharyas in the line of the devotional disciplic succession. I offer my obeisances unto the devotees who are on this platform listening to this discourse. I pray that by your mercy, I will be able to do this service without any ego, and at the end, be able to purify myself and benefit all of those who are listening. So today, we'll continue our reading. Like the host have said, we're supposed to be hearing from His Holiness Bhakti Sharidrishna Swami, but somehow or the other, due to some other engagement, he could not make it. And so I have this privilege and honor to be able to speak to us on this text. First Canto, chapter 8, chapter 18, text number 8, which is the continuation of the reading from the first canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, where we are discussing Maharaj Parikshit's caused by a Brahmana boy. And in the text that we're reading, Maharaj Parishit said that less intelligent men might find the personality of Kali to be very powerful, but those who are self-controlled will have nothing to fear. The king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless person. So in the purport is a very short one. Prabhupada has done a very beautiful job, and I've divided the purport into 3 sections to guide for this discussion. And the first point Prabhupada making the purport is that those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and unintelligent. And then he further went further to say, unless one is thoroughly intelligent, one cannot be a devotee of the Lord. 2 points. And the third point Prabhupada made is a summary, is a conclusion of the text, where he says that those who are not devotees of the Lord fall prey to the actions of Kali. It will not be possible to bring about a sinner condition in society unless we prepare to accept the modes of action adopted by Maharaj Parishit. So, in summary, overview of this text, this text is actually talking about material intelligence versus devotional intelligence. And how do I arrive at this point? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada just went ahead to say that Maharaj Parishit mentioned that those who are on intelligence, of course, the whole discussion we know from the beginning of this text, we're talking about how Maharaj Parishit was caused by young Brahmana boy. We've had the storyline from the beginning of this chapter of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. We know how Maharaj Parishit went into the forest, how it took place. A snake was tasty. He went into the hut of the sage, and he placed a snake, and then the young Brahmana boy, who's the son of the sage, who was supposedly disrespected according to the mindset of the young Brahmana boy, caused Maharaj Parishit. And then see a lot of discussion is going in that direction. And in this purport, Maharaj Parishit is speaking here and is mentioning that for those who are this age, the moment in the last text we read, we understand how the cause of Maharaj Parishit herald, or it brings forth the beginning of the age of Kali. And then we all have heard about the qualities of age of Kali. Like yesterday, Prabhu was talking about the qualities of age of Kali, the kind of living entities are in age of Kali. So we're not going to go into the repetition of that. So, but then what is most important here is that Maharaj Parishit is saying that age of Kali, as difficult as it is, when we look at the perception of what the description of age of Kali in the 12th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, the age of Kali has been discussed. And then the symptoms of the age of Kali. So when we look at all of this, Ganga Prasad even quoted yesterday, that the age of Kali is a function of thought. So, but then Prabhupada summarized this statement of Maharaj Parishit in expressing the intelligent and the unintelligent. That was the first point Prabhupada addressed in the purport, that those who are devotees of the Lord or those who are not devotees of the Lord are careless and are unintelligent. They are described as unintelligent here. And that is why I'm focusing on this discussion on material intelligence and devotional intelligence, because sometimes when we look at the materialistic, sometimes we say they're not intelligent, but when we look at what materialistic mind people have done, it is obviously sure that their activities portrays intelligence. So why is it that they are said they are unintelligent? When we go to the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the speech to Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 69, Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam, Tasyam Jagati Samyani, Yasyam Jagati Bhutani, Sanisha Pasyatu Mune. That what is not for all is being all being is in the time of awakening for the self-control and the time of awakening for all beings. It's not for the introspective state. But the important thing here we want to use in the purport is that Prabhupada said here, Prabhupada corroborate what is being discussed in this text that we're listening. Prabhupada said there are two classes of intelligent men. So when the purport is saying that those who are or the text we are reading today is talking about those who are only intelligent. But when we look at material advancement and civilization, we see a lot of intelligent activities in the form of technological advancement. So for us to be able to understand what is the difference between this intelligent and why the materialistic persons are called unintelligent, this text in the purport, Prabhupada said in the beginning of the purport, he said there are two classes of intelligent men. In other words, those who are not devotees are not necessarily unintelligent, but their intelligence is categorized here by Srila Prabhupada in this purport to this text. He said there are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Now, this is the crux of the whole of the discussion. That's why I said material intelligence versus spiritual or devotional intelligence, because the materialistic persons cannot be said to be unintelligent in the real sense. When we look at it from the modern civilization, we have seen that in our modern times, modern man has created so many gadgets to make life easy. They've created so many technological. You've seen that there is so much of technological advancement in the present material situation that depicts that there is some kind of intelligence for one to be able to do that. So Prabhupada further explained in the purport to Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text number 58. Before we go to that verse, we're talking about the intelligence. Prabhupada emphasized that there are two kinds of intelligence, and Prabhupada distinguishes them. The material intelligent persons, they engage in activities to develop so much of technical advancement for making life so-called easy, but all centered around sense gratification. But devotees or those who are spiritual personalities, their intelligence is considered to be real intelligence. Why? Because they engage intelligence in the actual purpose of what intelligence is made for. And to explain what Prabhupada meant, what Maharaj Prabhu is saying, that the unintelligent person here, when we look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text number 58, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna that what? Machita sarva durgani, mat pasada tarisisi, atashe twam ankara, na asocia si, dinatia si. But the point I want to take in that text is the last paragraph of the purport. Prabhupada emphasized that no conditioned soul actually knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. But a person who acts in Krishna consciousness is free to act because everything is prompted by Krishna from within and confirmed by the spiritual master. This is interesting. This is what Maharaj Parishit is talking about, that those who are conditioned, and so it explains, it covers the verse 269 that we just quoted, that the materialistic persons are not necessarily unintelligent. They are intelligent, but their intelligence is focused on the external senses. And when we look at if we go a little bit into the material intelligence, especially in Kali Yuga, it is said that the irony of our modern civilization is that the greatest brain in the last century have succeeded in doing what? The irony of our modern civilization is that the greatest brain in the last century, when you look at the inventors like Albert Einstein and many other inventors, they've led to our modern civilization to the greatest destruction of the modern times. And what do we mean by this? We see that in the process of trying to make life easy, to give life a meaningful, it takes a whole lot of intelligence. We see all of the gadgets that the scientists have made in modern times. They've created so many wonderful gadgets in different ways. But when we look analytically, all of these gadgets that the modern scientists have been able to invent, they end up in massively destroying the human society before the invention of nuclear weapon, which is one of the most proudest weapons that we see what is going on in Russia and in Ukraine. The world powers today are known by how much they have been able to develop nuclear power. We can travel in the ancient of time. If someone has to travel from one point to the other time, for an example, one has to travel from Africa to America. It will take so many years for someone to be able to actually do that. But modern scientists have been able to create situations. But when we look at the ultimate end, it makes a life easy on one side. But when we look at the other side of it, it has ended up in creating so much of a situation that in one go, a mass or number of people. So our modern civilization has succeeded in creating situations that increases the mass destructions of modern man. Before the First World War, we've never had the numbers of persons that was killed in the First World War. Over 50 million people were said to be killed in that war. But that is thanks to what? To modern technology, for the use of gun and some technical or sophisticated destructive weapons that was created. And then, God forbid, if there's any third world, as the world is gearing towards it now, there is one of the greatest anxiety in the world today is that the world is so scared that after the Second World War, there were so many activities to curb the destruction of humanity. But we've seen that despite all of the material arrangement to reduce the destruction of man, its environment, whatever has been created in modern times has increased the numbers of destructions of humanity. We've not seen this in the lower species of life. We see that the ferocious animals like tiger could destroy a deer, and just for the purpose of for sustenance of maintaining itself. But man has developed so much weaponry to destroy itself to the extent that the kind of destruction that we find in the society today in a mass situation is so alarming that one is even scared that maybe the world is going to come to an end, as the Western theology has said. Because when you look at the level of destructions, man is no longer afraid of the lower species of life. We don't wake up in the morning and be scared of a snake coming into our house or a tiger coming, but we're scared in some 4, 5, 6 decades ago. It is a natural thing for people to build house and to leave the whole of the space open. But now practically everybody lives in this kind of itself. In the name of what? For protection. Because so much of advancement of material intelligence has developed so many technological equipment that end up in reducing the duration of human life. When the BHAGAVATAM explained that men in this age are short-lived, it is not because it's not naturally because of the age in itself, but because of the kind of the lifestyle that modern man lives. It is said that technological advancement has given so much external power to man. And when we look at all of these external powers that we have gotten, we see the world powers today, they pride in their ability to be able to destroy. we all know the stories of in the Asia, in China, the Nagasaki destructions. How in just in one activity, mass of people were destroyed to the disadvantage of inner power. But the sages, as explained in the Bhagavad Gita 269 that we quoted, the sages use the same human intelligence to develop the inner power for spiritual advancement. So man, by his advancement of technology, has developed so much external power, and this mass power that man has developed is led man to massive level of destructions. When we look at everything that is called civilization and advancement in our modern times, they all lead. And it takes a whole lot of intelligence. You can imagine kind of intelligence that is required to produce an aeroplane, to produce even just one gun or some kind of nuclear weapon. With the world was put into a pandemic situation in the last 3 years ago. Even though it is reduced now, research has shown that this was not a natural disease. It was something created by some man's rationalization based on his ideology of trying to do what? To change God's arrangement. According to research, it is shown that the so-called materialistic world power are thinking the world is getting overpopulated. As a result of this, let us find a way to reduce population, and they create a kind mass of destructive weapon. So material knowledge, it provides to us how to get things done better. We see that we have so many gadgets that makes life so-called easy. But what spiritual intelligence does is that it tells us why we should do what and why we should not do what. The difference between material intelligence is that material intelligence creates so much of facilities to increase our ability to do things very fast, to do things very easy, so-called easy. But at the end of the day, it brings about the detrimental to the nature of the self, because the living entity is not the composition of just matter, but a composition of both matter and spirit. And that is why the real intelligence that is discussed here is referring to those intelligence that deals with that which is spiritual knowledge, gives us the subject matter. According to Genesis, it is said that science and modern technology, they gave us what they succeeded in. What science has given to us is science has given to us. Science gives the study of material nature and expands this for sense gratification. But spirituality or bhakti, devotional service, is the study of what matters, how to deal with situations. That is what spiritual knowledge is given to us. So therefore, what is being said by Maharaj Parikshit here in this text and in the pop-up as given by Srila Prabhupada, when he's talking about unintelligent, careless people who are not devoted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what he's talking about here, it is not necessarily that they're not intelligent. There is intelligence, because it takes intelligence. We can see what it takes for a man even to rob. We see organized robbery in our modern times. Someone will take so many days. We look at all kinds of criminalities, of all kinds of demoniac things that is being done in the material world today. It requires a whole lot of intelligence. So there is some kind of intelligence, but that intelligence is considered unintelligent. Why? Because those intelligence does not give us the solution to what matters. What really matters is the soul, which is the essence of the being, of the living entity. But material intelligence gives us so much of ability to do things in the material space, but ultimately to gratify the senses, which leads to the destruction of the self. And that is why in the nectar in the nectar of instruction, in their Supanishad, rather, it is said that the killer of the soul. So, although the soul is spiritual, is eternal, it cannot be killed, but one who simply uses the intelligence given by Krishna for the purpose of material development, sense gratification, and material advancement, simply succeed in what? Killing the soul. And that is what the verse is trying to point us to, that one is considered to be unintelligent if his activities revolves around those activities that does only give benefit to the material body, material senses, and in such a manner, the conditioned soul degrades itself. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada went further to say it will not be possible to bring a sinner's condition. So therefore, Prabhupada is saying that because this material intelligence does not give anything meaningful to the self or the soul, so therefore, Maharaj Parikshit is saying all of the symptoms of the age of Kali, they will become fearful to the conditioned soul only if the intelligence that is given by Krishna is used for development of sense gratification at the expense of spiritual development, which is focused or centered on the study or practice of devotional life. So Prabhupada mentioned that it will not be possible to bring about a sinner condition in a society unless we are prepared to accept the most of action adopted by Maharaj Parikshit. What is the mood that is adopted by Maharaj Parikshit? This mood of devotion. Because we see that living entity at every situation is always controlled, but our intent, the ego of the materialistic person is that it creates so much situation, trying in so many ways to give solutions to everything. But the solution to existence has already been given by Krishna in the Vedic scriptures. And that is why it is mentioned that the greatest gift that a man can receive is what? To become a bhakta, to become a devotee of the Lord. So Prahlad Maharaj said to his student friends in the school of the spiritual master that the best education, the best knowledge, the best use of intelligence is to do what? To engage in devotional service. And that devotional service is described of 9 ladders. We start with Savanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, that chanting the holy name of the Lord, engaging and remembering the form, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and like that. He said, this is real knowledge. This is real use of intelligence. Intelligence, one is unintelligent if his endeavor, if his activity, whether it is individual or collective, whether as a society or a nation or the world at large, if our intelligence does not align with the development of what is Maharaj Parikshit doing there, what Maharaj Parikshit does there, material life, like the verse we quoted yesterday, material life is superfluous to the living entity in such a way that it bewilders the living entity in so many ways. The material condition of this life is constantly bewildering. The foolishness of the material scientists is that material scientists are thinking that they can create solutions, but it's only a foolish man who does the same thing. Like Albert Einstein himself says, that it's only a foolish man it takes only a foolish person to continuously do the same thing to expect a different result. Because whatever material development, material advancement that we're seeing, they kept on producing another problem. Once one problem is solved, it creates another problem. It was HIV/AIDS at one point in time. It was after so much struggle and suffering and so many loss of life. Then it comes to Ebola. After Ebola, now it is AIDS. After AIDS, another one is coming. And now, even now, when you look at the global space, now there is a new development that is coming up, because now it is said that, of course, they're still struggling with how to tackle with AIDS, because after taking the first jab, like Ganga Pasha was also mentioning yesterday, but after taking the first, initially, what the scientists is profiling or offering to us is that, oh, COVID-19 is a pandemic, but once you take the virus vaccine, then you'll be immune to it. But after taking the vaccine, it was discovered, oh, this is not actually a cure. Then they said, okay, you take the second dose that will enhance the first dose. It will give some solution. And at the end of the day, it wasn't giving a solution, because people are still getting infected and dying because of this. They say, okay, now you get a booster. And after getting the booster, we are seeing that this problem is still not solved. So the material advancement will continuously bring about one challenge, because the moment we're trying to solve one problem, it brings another problem. Once you try to solve one problem, it brings in another problem. That is what material advancement will do to us. Individually, collectively, globally, our activities to exploit nature for the purpose of becoming happy in an environment that we have find ourselves in is never going to be able to give succor to anyone. That is what Maharaj Parikshit is trying to make, is that the age of Kali, with all of its challenges, has nothing to do with one who is actually taken to the process of devotional service. And we have a perfect example in the life of our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, when we look at the life of Srila Prabhupada, there were so many challenges. What else did Srila Prabhupada did not see? So someone is engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality. It's a pure devotee of the Lord, but he has so much of. But at each and every time the challenges come, Srila Prabhupada is never distracted about what is supposed to be done. So that is why he said in that purport to chapter 18, text number 58, that unless one is in devotional service, unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, one will not be able to know. He explained that one who is not in Krishna consciousness does not know what is to be done, what is not to be done. So in essence, the verse is simply telling us that the essence of human life is simply what? To engage in devotional service. And the whole of the Vedic scriptures, the whole of our spiritual endeavor is to bring us to this conclusion. The last sentence in the text we read, it says that the king was powerful like a tiger and took care for the foolish, careless person. In other words, one who is not a devotee, just like Prabhupada gave his protection to his devotee. There are so many pastimes of Srila Prabhupada which depict what Maharaj Parikshit is saying here, that the material perplexities has no power to frustrate one who is engaged in the path of devotional service. And what is the greatest skill one can develop? The greatest skills one can develop in devotional service is to be able to see the negative situations or the negative situation in age of Kali in a positive way. And how do one do that? How do one see negative situations in a positive way? When one understands the purpose behind the creation. And that is what Krishna told Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who knows the purpose behind everything is never bewildered by anything. One who knows the purpose behind everything is never bewildered by anything. In other words, when one has understanding about the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is never bewildered. We can make so many plans in material life, and we suffer so many consequences of our material planning in order to become happy, to become satisfied in this material world. But our material planning will always get us into a trouble at the end of the day. But our spiritual Krishna's plan, even though Krishna has brought age of Kali, he has brought it for the purpose of what? For the purpose of fulfilling our purpose of living this environment to come back to him. That is the benedictions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when we look at the age of Kali, sometimes it looks as if it is negative, but the age of Kali is perfect. Like it is said in the beginning, in the vocation to Isopanisha, they said, Om Punam Ada Punam 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 Udasyate Punam Punam Ada Punam Ivavashishyate. That the material is everything that is coming from the perfect person is perfect. So Kali Yuga itself also is a perfect place. Whatever so-called absurdities, negativities, incompatibility that we are experiencing in the age of Kali is a perfect arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's the perfect plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how is that perfect? How can the difficulties, challenges be perfect? Let us look at the story, and maybe that will give us an inkling into this. When we look at the story in the Mahabharata, we remember that Lord Krishna, this is just to make us to understand how Kali Yuga is a perfect, is within the plan of the Lord for the living entities, for his auspiciousness. In the Mahabharata, we learn the story of Duryodhana was a very active villain that was engaging in all kinds of activities against the plan of the every living entity has a plan. Just like material scientists are giving so many so much of plans to make life easier here. So, but then Krishna's plan, everything that we do is within the Krishna's plan. Everything that is happening is within the Krishna's plan. In the story of Mahabharata, we know that at one point, Lord Krishna, he left to Hastinapur for a peace mission. Just before the beginning of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Lord Krishna went to Hastinapur, and then when he got there, according to the story, that night before Lord Krishna went, in the night when Lord Krishna arrived at Hastinapur, he met with Vidura, and we all know the kind of personality of Vidura. Vidura was such an intelligent person. Vidura, when he saw Lord Krishna, and he was to stay with Krishna for that night, and Lord Krishna, he asked Lord Krishna, he said, "My dear Lord Krishna, you have just left not long ago after the story of Drupadi's being dishonored, intent of the Kauravas to dishonor Drupadi, and the Lord had to come to save Drupadi. And after that time, Lord Krishna came back, and Lord Krishna told Vidura that he has come to give a peace accord to the Kauravas, to Duryodhana, so that the battlefield of Kurukshetra can be averted." And then Vidura became alarmed. Vidura said, "What? My dear Lord, I can still refresh in my memory. It is very still fresh in my memory, the obstinacy of Duryodhana and his brothers in their attempt to disrobe Drupadi, and how you even came, and how you saved Drupadi. And in the course of Drupadi, you exhibited the quality of your personality, and that is enough for anybody to be able to do what? To surrender. But Duryodhana never succumbed to his plan, to the plan of the Lord. He is still obstinate. So my dear Lord, I'm scared that at this time also, Duryodhana is not going to listen. Dhritarashtra is going to support his son, Duryodhana, and they will not. And I'm looking at what will be the result of such a thing. And most importantly, I have heard that Duryodhana is planning to arrest you in the court tomorrow when you come. And I can foresee a very big challenge that if you come to the court tomorrow to give a peace request to Duryodhana to forsake his intent and give some the Pandavas, even just 5 villages. So Duryodhana is planning to arrest you, Lord, and I know that no one among the host of the demigods, not human being, can arrest you, the Supreme Lord. So I can foresee a very, very dangerous situation for Duryodhana. And the Lord said to Vidura, that my dear Vidura, yes, I'm aware that Duryodhana is planning these evil thoughts. So if Duryodhana is planning to do evil activities in trying to arrest the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so how then do we relate this plan of Duryodhana to be within the plan of the Lord? How do we relate to the perfect arrangement of the Supreme Personality of God? So Lord Krishna, he elucidated and Vidura by explaining to Vidura, he said, yes, Duryodhana is going to try to arrest me. But when he's trying to arrest me, I'm not coming to appease Duryodhana so that Duryodhana can change his mind, because I know he will never change his mind. He said, but my purpose is not for Duryodhana to listen and accept my request. He said, my plan is to vindicate the Pandavas so that at the end of the war, whatever will happen at the end of the war, so that the world will vindicate my devotees, that it was Duryodhana that was the cause of the war battle that is going to happen. So that when the all of the Kauravas is killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, then my devotees will not be blamed. They will be vindicated to be free from the blame of killing billions and millions of personalities that will be dead in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So Lord Krishna explained to Vijayanath, he said, although, yes, Duryodhana is planning an evil plan, but the Lord is using the plan of Duryodhana to vindicate his devotee, and that is why it is said that the plan of the living entity, even when it is wrong, when it is demoniac, when it is against the will of the Lord, is still within the arrangement of the Lord. How is it within the plan of the Lord? Because the Lord uses whatever the plan, the living entity is planning to achieve ultimate purpose of its intention. So just like Duryodhana was planning to arrest the Lord, but the Lord uses that his obstinacy to do what? To achieve the purpose of glorifying his devotees, of freeing his devotees from the blame of creating the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And there is one analogy I had, which is very interesting, which explains this very more elaborately. This analogy that the Lord is like a GPRS. Some of us here who drives, Govinda Prabhu can relate to this. He's always using GPRS to navigate. When we're trying to go somewhere we do not know, we use the GPRS, and GPRS tells us, go like this, go right, go left, go right, go left. But sometimes, due to absent-mindedness or whatever, or madness or whatever, sometimes the GPRS will tell us, go right, and sometimes we mistakenly will go left. And when we go left, we miss the road. So there's a consequences for that. But then the GPRS does not become defeated or bewildered. The GPRS still finds a way to reroute us to the destination, even though we have gone the wrong way. So it said that the Lord is like the GPRS, even though our planning may not be in line with the Lord's plan. When we go the wrong path, the Lord, just like the GPRS, reroutes the driver using another route to get to the same destination. The Lord will still ultimately, because the ultimate desire of the Lord is to take us back to God. So we put us in this material world. So when we take our material planning, material endeavor to gratify our senses against the will of the Lord, we suffer consequences. But at the end of the day, the Lord still finds a way to bring us back into his arrangement to ultimately to save us. Because what happens with that? When that happens, the Lord allows us to suffer the consequences of our actions, but ultimately the Lord gives us opportunity to come to him. And that's where I will conclude this discussion so that we can open up. So conclusively, the Lord, we can choose to serve the one supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, by submitting, like Maharaj Parishit, to the plan of the Lord, as is mentioned in the purpose. We can submit ourselves to the supreme personality of Godhead and serve the supreme personality of Godhead by controlling our senses and, like as explained in the text, adopt the action of Maharaj Parishit, submitting to the will of the supreme personality of Godhead. Or we can become a Godasa, or the servant of our senses, make plans to become happy in the material world by following our plan, like Duryodhana. The Lord will not interfere in our planning. He will allow us to do our planning. And when we go around, instead of going to our destination in 40 seconds or 40 minutes, the GPRS of the Lord will redirect us. But we may end up getting there in 40 years. And this brings us to a very good, another good example in the Bible. The Israelites, were supposed to go to the destiny land in 40 days. But because they took a different, a wrong turning, they followed their own plan, and what? The journey of 40 days turned out to be 40 years. In the same way, whether we like it or not, each and every one of us, ultimately, we will come back to the Supreme Personality of God. But our existence, our remain in this material world, may be 40 billion years, or 40 days, or 40 seconds. That is the essence of what this verse is telling us, that the unintelligent person will choose his own planning, how to become happy, or choose the plan of the Lord to become happy. The Lord has made an ample arrangement for us to become happy. Maharaj Parikshit is a perfect example. When the perplexities of the life came, which is navigating towards the end of his existence, he chose a right path by submitting himself to the path of bhakti, taking the nectar of hearing the transcendental narration of the form, name, pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or we can take our own path or we can navigate our own path, like the modern material scientist who tries to create solutions by exploiting nature to create so many gadgets and so many technological advancements, which end up increasing the suffering of the living entities. So it is left for us which way we want to go. This is what the verse is telling us, that the unintelligent person will choose his own path, his own steps, and he will go to where he wants to go. Or he will adopt the model or the life or the example of Maharaj Parikshit and submit. In other words, our material perplexity will not stop at any time, because the age of Kali is meant to produce all of this. But we can take advantage of Kali to attain the ultimate goal, which is what Maharaj Parikshit has done. Maharaj Parikshit has successfully showed us, and that is what he said in the text, that for one who is not a devotee, Kali Yuga will be very difficult. Material difficulties will be very challenging situations. But one who has submitted himself, like Maharaj Parikshit, who has adopted the model of Maharaj Parikshit, Kali Yuga become what? It becomes like a toy that one can play with, and one will sail through this insurmountable or seemingly unsurmountable ocean of material existence and find himself at the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and cross the ocean of material existence and attain the lotus feet of Krishna. While here he is happy, when he goes there, he becomes absolutely blissful. But we can remain miserable here while we are here trying to gratify our senses, and then at the end of leaving this body, we take another material body, which is going to put us in another hellish situation. So it is our choice. So this verse is giving us a two-part. Like I said in the beginning of our material intelligence, we use the subject matter is what we are talking about: material intelligence versus spiritual intelligence. The conclusion is that we can choose to serve only one master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or we decide to serve our senses and we become a servant of the senses, and the senses will never free us, or we become the servant of this Krishna, following the footsteps of the Goswamis, and then become qualified as Srila Prabhupada, the perfect spiritual master, and navigate the ocean of material sufferings in the material world. So I'll stop here, and this is the summary of the discussion. So our material intelligence versus devotional intelligence, it is our choice to choose which direction we want to go. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace Salika Prabhu. Lots of information giving. And personally, I find some of the information to be a bit controversial. And I may ask some question, but I first want to find out from devotees. If anyone has a question, please, you may do that by raising your hand or using the hand emoji. Then you'll be asked to unmute. So, Salika, Prabhu, you were talking about the summary of the class you gave, material intelligence and devotional intelligence. Are you trying to say we should pick one and leave the other, or we have to pick both? I believe that we need both. We need material intelligence and we need devotional intelligence. What do you think? What do you say?
Thank you very much. In the context of this class, let me first start by from where you started, that it has created some controversy. Actually, that is what it's meant to be. A good class should bring about controversy. It should bring about doubt. If it does not bring a doubt in our mind or challenging thoughts, then it means that it is actually not. It has not achieved the purpose. When Lord Krishna, when he's speaking to Arjuna, it arises when the first thing Lord Krishna did is amazing. A friend is talking to a friend, and then when he expresses his frustration, and Lord Krishna started laughing. That expression alone can be very, very. Is this person my friend or my enemy? That's what comes to Arjuna's mind immediately, because when a friend is supposed to be, emotionally supportive, and he started sarcastically laughing at you, then it brings about from that, and that gives Krishna an opportunity to explain. So I appreciate your statement. Yes, it should be like that. Then, talking about material intelligence and spiritual intelligence, Srila Prabhupada used to give an example, and I'll make it very brief. There are so many other ways we can explain it, but I'll use one Prabhupada's analogy to explain it. Prabhupada always says that spiritual, in 1,000, there is 1, there is 2, there is 3, there is 900. But in 1, there is nothing more than the 1. In other words, material intelligence is like 0, while spiritual intelligence is 1 plus 0. So it has value. So our spiritual intelligence encompasses both matter and spirit, because the completeness, because the spirit, that is why Lord Krishna says, Om Punam Ada Punam Idam, Punam Punam Udasyat. Everything is perfect, because everything ultimately is spiritual. But the moment we start looking at matter as separate from spirituality, then the mindset to choose becomes the doubt, the confusion starts from there. But when we see everything as ultimately one, Krishna, when we see Krishna as everything, that is what Krishna wants us to come to. The ultimate purpose of education is to come to the point whereby we understand that Aham Sarva Se Prabhava Mata Sarva Prabhatate Iti Matwa Bhajantimam. The Baba Saman, everything is emanating, everything is Krishna. Nothing is outside of Krishna. There is nothing like matter or spirit, ultimately. And that is why I captioned, for the purpose of this discourse, that material intelligence versus spiritual intelligence, because spiritual intelligence means that it encompasses everything. Material intelligence is minus Krishna, because material energy and material scientists are trying to give solutions. They are trying to give, like I quote one of the quotes I pointed out, they are trying to find solutions on how to become happy. They are giving so many things to make us happy. They are finding solutions to the question of how to become happy. But they do not provide the answer to why we should be happy. And that is where material intelligence becomes separated from spiritual intelligence. Ultimately, there is no material or spirituality. Everything is spiritual. But for the purpose of what Maharaj Parikshit is saying here, that unintelligent, because he uses the word unintelligent, but we see that materialists have so much of intelligence, because it takes a lot of intelligence. Just look at our Android phone, the kind of intelligence that is required. I can stay here in the dense, dark corner of Africa, and in just a second, I'll be speaking to Saturday in the United States of America, thousands and thousands of miles away. That is why I started the discourse by quoting that verse 269 of Bhagavad Gita, where I mentioned that the materialists, they try by trying to use external knowledge, giving solution to the problem of the conditioned soul, using the material external energy at the expense of internal. For the spiritualists, concentrate on the internal. Flying from Nigeria to America for a say is less than a second, because by the power of the mind, because the introspective say they have the ability to do even greater things than what the planes can do today. So that is the perspective of the background from which I'm coming from for the purpose of the test. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Hare Krishna, it does, but it still leaves some more questions in the sense that, if I'm not mistaken, and if I heard you right, you were stating that material things that have been created are the cause of our problems. Like materialist scientists will try to treat one problem but create another problem. And you were giving examples about AIDS, Ebola, COVID, and vaccination and booster. Now, I do not see why and how those would be the cause of the problems. Those things are just things trying to curb the problems. They are not there to create the problems per se. But because we live in this material world, dealing with the material modes of nature, trying to solve a problem will create another problem. That's just the nature of this world. And you were talking about now you are in one part of the world, I'm in one part of the world, but by the innovation of this scientific mind that we all have, we now can get together and discuss the Bhagavatam. Now, instead of carrying the whole 12 volumes of Bhagavatam in a bag, I have it in the palm of my hand. So I would want you to explain more as to what do you mean when you say that these material things are the cause of our problems? Because I just listened to one of Sri Prabhupada's lectures, and he was in Melbourne, Australia. And there were lots of journalists there asking him questions. And so he was asked, Swamiji, your philosophy is that of asceticism. In other words, like denial of bodily needs. And Sri Prabhupada said, no, that is not what we're teaching. We're teaching that we can use anything, everything, absolutely everything in the service of Krishna. And so again, he was asked, why do you ride in a Rolls Royce? That is very expensive car, and you are a spiritualist. And Sri Prabhupada's answer was that I can walk, but why do I have to walk if there is Rolls Royce for me to walk around, to drive around and get to places faster? So I think that material things per se are not the cause of our problems. It depends on how they are used. If you want to talk more about it or explain more on it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for bringing out those points. Actually, this is the expected questions in this kind of a talk. And yes, Prabhupada said not just that, so many times. Prabhupada said we're not against science, and we're not against scientific development. We read in the Bhagavatam about Vimana, plane, and all of these scientific weapons that are used in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But That's why in the course of lecture, I said something like that one who knows the purpose behind everything is not bewildered about anything because he knows the purpose behind everything. And the focus is that what Prabhupada is asking us to adopt here is the model of Maharaj Parikshit, using everything ultimately for the purpose of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But why we're speaking so much against material scientific development is that the material scientific development is geared towards gratifying the senses. But the devotees spiritualize those purposes, scientific development. When Zoom was not created for discussing Bhagavatam, but the devotees by this Yukta Vairagya are using everything in the service of the Lord as spiritualized Zoom. So what we're saying in essence is that everything should be connected back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Once you know the purpose behind everything, then everything becomes spiritual. And that's why I explained in my answer to the first question that ultimately, the idea is to bring us back to the fact that there is nothing material. Ultimately, everything is spiritual because everything is coming from the spiritual person. But when materialistic persons try to develop, manipulate nature for the purpose of separating the soul away from the supreme, then it becomes materialistic. It becomes material. So materialism, so the plane, the Zoom, the mobile phone, and all of that are no longer material for one who is a devotee, because a devotee engages them in activities of the Supreme Personality of God. So they become spiritual. So the whole idea is to redirect the mind back to the purpose behind nature. Materialistic scientists and civilization wants to separate God from nature, while a devotee wants to engage nature in the purpose for which nature was meant for pleasing the Supreme Personality of God. Yes, so material, what we call matter, ultimately is part and parcel. Krishna said, this divine energy constituting the three modes of material nature, which is what manifested everything that we see. It's my divine energy. And that is what we're trying to say, that everything is Krishna, and it is meant for Krishna's pleasure. And when we come from that perspective, when we perform and engage in activities, Ravana, and many other powerful demons, they engage in austerity for the purpose of gratifying the senses. It is not because austerity is bad. Austerity is good. But when austerity is geared towards gratifying the senses, and that's why the conclusion of my discussion was centered around that, to bring all of the discussion back to the point that we choose either to engage in the service of the senses or the service of Krishna. So material things, or seemingly called material things, are not material when we come to the spiritual realization.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Yeah, it helps. Thank you so much for the elaboration. So if anyone, we want to recognize the presence of His Grace Srivasvanacharya Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for being here.
Hare Krishna.
Always giving us your support. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So if anyone has a question, please, you may do that. Ask your question to His Grace Salika Prabhu.
I have a comment.
Okay, please go ahead.
I like the point Salika Prabhu made, that the material scientists, they want to separate nature from God, and the devotee, they want to use nature and fulfilling the mission of the Lord. That's a very beautiful statement.
Thank you.
Very, very wonderful. The materialists, they want to separate the energy of the Lord from the Lord so they can exploit it. But the devotees, they want to engage everything in Krishna service. So our mindsets are different. The materialistic mindset is exploitation, and the devotee mindset is service. So thank you for that beautiful point.
Thank you very much for commenting on that. Thank you very much. Yeah, Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes. I think the question is not the utilization. Sadev Prabhu question is about being intelligent and unintelligent. So, yes, utilizing everything in the service of Krishna is the purpose of everything. But without Krishna, everything is zero. That is understood clearly. But the question is the intelligent and unintelligent. The person who invented this vehicle that I'm driving, the intention was to make money. But the user of the vehicle is also benefiting in a way. Just like the aircraft and the vehicle that is moving every day, and there are so many things that we are using for, our survival here in the material world. Imagine if those things were not there. How shall we have going to be living in this world? Our living here would have become very, very difficult for us. So even though these things are not being used in the service of Krishna, how do we consider those inventors to be unintelligent?
Thank you very much. I will share this screen again. I quoted a verse earlier where I was at the very beginning of the class. I quoted Bhagavad Gita. Where is the slide? Just a second. I liked it somewhere. Just a second. I want to share that point.
Say, Prabhu, before you share your points, I will continue my question by saying that is it are the items created by these people considered them to be unintelligent, or because they have forgotten the purpose of life? Because the purpose of life is to know Krishna and serve Krishna. So you can create things that are not even created. But if those things are not leading you to Krishna, then you may be considered intelligent, but actually you're not intelligent because you don't know Krishna. You found everything without Krishna, and so you are not intelligent. Is that the case?
Yeah. When you look at this slide, the very verse I started with, that verse, Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text number 69. And I've highlighted it here. In the Papa says, that is why I started by explaining that the word used in the text is those who are unintelligent. But we need to understand what is meant by being unintelligent. And that is what Prabhupada explained in this purpose. There are two classes of intelligent men. So in other words, those who are so-called unintelligent in this verse we are reading today, are actually intelligent people. They are intelligent because for one to be able to create this gigantic electronics and gadgets that is just an example, the media we are using now, the Zoom, it takes a whole lot of intelligence. That's why I started from there, that actually there are very intelligent personalities. The material scientists are very intelligent, but I distinguish their intelligence from real intelligence. Why Mama Tarish is calling them unintelligent in this one, where he says that Prabhupada said there are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. So the one who is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification is unintelligent, because his attempt will be met with failure. Because it is not about the process, it is about the goal. When our activities or endeavor leads us to destruction, then that is not intelligence. But when our activities, and in another place in the Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned that which in the beginning is very bitter, but at the end is sweet, is of the mode of goodness. So materialists, their intelligence, the given intelligence, they are using it for the wrong purpose, for activities of sense gratification. That is what makes them unintelligent, even though they are so much of intelligence. In other words, you cannot separate intelligence from the existence of the living entity. After all, Krishna said, "Buni apo nalo bayumam kamano budi ibasha ankara bina prakiti ashtada." He mentioned this intelligence. The living entity has intelligence, so you cannot take it away from him. But when he is said to be unintelligent, unintelligence means that he's using what is meant for service, for gratification, and that is what makes him unintelligent. And the other is introspective, because they use their time for cultivation of self-realization. And that is why in the end of the discussion, in the end of the presentation, I mentioned that now one can choose to be intelligent by serving the ultimate master, Krishna, or serving the senses. One can choose to serve the senses with whatever endeavor, with whatever use of intelligence. One's attention can focus on Krishna. But one's intelligence or intelligence will be defined in which of these step one takes. Whether one uses the intelligence for senses or uses the intelligence for Krishna. When one engages the senses for intelligence for senses, it becomes unintelligent. It becomes the servant. But when he uses the intelligence for serving Krishna, which is the ultimate purpose for which the intelligence is given, then he's said to be a Goswami master. He becomes a master, not longer a servant. I don't know whether that is
All right, Hare Krishna, thank you so much for the question, Govinda Prabhu, and thank you for the answer. Hare Chakra Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Salika Prabhu, for the class. Yeah, I'm enjoying the discourse. I'm enjoying especially the questions that are being asked and the answers that are being given. But my one observation that I've seen among especially devotees is that usually we speak as if we knew the state of consciousness of the scientists who created some gadgets. So we say, when we are using Zoom for preaching Bhagavatam, We say because we are using the Zoom for preaching Bhagavatam is good, but the person who created the Zoom didn't have that mentality. How do we know his state of consciousness when he was creating Zoom? So the idea is
Very
what I'm
good question.
thinking. Yeah.
Very good
So
question.
what I'm thinking is that we should stop jumping into conclusion that, oh, these people created this for sense gratification. I mean, we don't even know their state of consciousness when they created it. So what I'm thinking is like when Sadev asked the question and he followed it up, and you also gave that explanation, is that it's like when someone has made a knife, the knife, how do we know that the person made the knife for distraction? I don't think we can just jump into conclusion that he created the knife to be used for distraction. But he had good intention for the knife. But the user of the knife is the one who will determine whether it's used properly or improperly. So in this way, I think we should always reconsider our situation of trying to jump into conclusion that the material is the materialist. Whatever has been created, we should be able to propagate how people can use items in the service of Krishna. And in this way, we can rather be on the positive side rather than always thinking about the negative aspect of things. And the scientists are this, of course, Srila Prabhupada can't say anything. Prabhupada is Prabhupada. It's like, I remember reading Prabhupada Lilamrita when one sannyasi got married and he was telling Prabhupada that, I think I have fallen down and I think you are going to do exactly like Lord Chaitanya did to Junior Haridas. And Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya is God. He can turn the whole world into Krishna consciousness in a second, but I need help. So I can't do like Lord Chaitanya did. So similarly, I'm thinking that we should always come to the mindset that it's our duty as devotees to try to preach in such a way that we actually encourage people to use everything in our disposal for the service of Krishna, rather than seeing the negative aspect of thinking that the scientists created this for that. Even in the ancient times, the Brahmastra weapons and everything. Look at what is the name of Dronacharyya's son?
Swatama.
Aswatthama. Look at what he used Brahmastra weapon for. Was the Brahmastra weapon made for that type of destruction? I don't think so. But Aswatthama decided to use it that way. So this is the little, it's like, what do I call it? A little observation that I'm seeing among devotees. And I think the clarification you gave is wonderful. But if you can still go ahead and give me a little bit more about that aspect where the state of consciousness of devotees, when we always point fingers at people who created stuff, especially the scientists, that their mentality is this, they are as if we are in their head to know what they were thinking when they were creating the item. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. I was just about to say something in that line, so you already said it. Salika Prabhu, please, you may unmute. You are muted.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe the material scientists are not happy with me because I was critiquing so much of material technology. My Wi-Fi battery just went off all of a sudden, and I didn't remember to plug it. Anyway, thank you very much, Marishaka, for the.
Okay, I'll finish the class soon.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what we are saying is that material, yes, like what you said, we are not Krishna, so we wouldn't know what is in the art, because only Krishna sees the art of all living entities. We are just looking. But when we look at the purpose behind why they do this, Earlier on, I share one of the points I share in this in the class. I show this. Material knowledge provides solutions to how to do things better. Scientists concerned basically from experience are all geared towards trying to find solutions to making life easier and better on Earth. Scientists have no goal. In most cases, they do not even know whether God exists. And even some of them who knows, they do not have any affinity or relationship to God in their endeavor. Their ultimate goal from the antecedents, from the experience, from their utterances, from their body language, most often shows that they want to make life easy while on this earth planet. So they are providing answers to question of how to be better. But they do not consider why should we make life better in the material world? Because ultimately, the material world is not a place for the living entities to live. It's not meant to be here. The living entity is not meant to be this material world. Is not part of this existence and is eternal a place, because no matter how much it tries to make things happy or better here, it will eventually leave. So that is why material scientific creation is seen in that light. And because the purpose is meant for enhancing life while on earth. Because, okay, let me give an example. We're talking about Zoom, and we are using Zoom to give ourselves ticket to go back to the kingdom of God. But if you have the scientists behind the creation of the when Zoom was initially introduced, when you look at the purpose that was stated for the purpose of Zoom, you will realize that it has nothing to do with spirituality. But devotees, because they are experts in engaging everything in the service of the Lord, they divert that purpose. So those who are inventors of this scientific thing, they become benefited. Even though, and that is what it's called pious activities. And that is what Bhagavad Gita is saying. One who has engaged in pious activities in previous life and this life, although they have engaged in this for a different cause, but because whatever they have created has given opportunity for devotional advancement, so they get some punya. So we're not denying the fact that they get some benefits. But when they look at the purpose which they roll out, when they create these scientific gadgets, they're not primarily focused on devotion. It is for enhancing life on this earth. They're not concerned about life after this earth. And that's why we most often times say that.
All right, Hare Krishna, thank you so much. And I didn't even Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, just don't pronounce to devotees. Yeah, Salika Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, go
Thank you very
ahead.
much for the wonderful lecture. But that has been wondering and bothering me about 4 days ago when Kavichandra Swami Maharaj gave a class on this platform. And it mentioned that one Maharaj decided not to come to Africa just because of malaria. And to me, as a neophyte, my thinking is that are all equal. But for a Maharaj or pure devotee, that matter to say that he cannot come to Africa just because of malaria. I've been thinking of this for the very first day up to now, and I'm not getting a clear understanding as to where people we are looking up to say there's such a thing. So what of us? So in fact, I'm done spiritually, so I need a little bit clarification on that as to why it has to be like that.
Please, you need to rewind a little bit. I lost you.
Okay, his question is this. Today is Friday, I think Monday or Tuesday. I think Tuesday when His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj gave class, he also said that he was encouraging devotees to try our best and distribute books, do harinams. And he made mention of His Holiness Mahavishnu Maharaj going everywhere doing harinam sankirtan, but he and his team are afraid to go to Africa because of malaria. And Nadine Prabhu's question is, why should that, the fear of malaria in Africa prevent such a person and his team to go to Africa? So if you can throw some light on that, that is his question.
And if I can add,
Thank you, Sadi Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Okay, please go ahead.
also say that he's spiritually down because of this statement.
Oh,
And
yes,
he-
you did say
He
that.
wants that they can lift his spirit up. Very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, sorry. I was switching from network to network, so I'm losing most of the talk. But I think if I get you correctly, the question is, Maharaj gave advice about book distribution, and that the book distribution, why should some personalities at the level of guru, sannyasis, be scared of malaria? Is that the question? Sponsor Adipo, can you?
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Yes, please.
Like Vara Prabhu added what he said. He said he is spiritually down based on that, because to him, he does not see why that should be a problem for a guru. No, we understand our gurus are very advanced devotees. So he's down, spiritually down.
Sure. That is, yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah.
That's a very sensitive question, if you ask me. But I'll try to explain my little understanding, and then maybe Srivas Brahmachari who can assist by adding some comment afterwards. A devotee is not a reckless person. A devotee's ultimate purpose is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, he does not act whimsically. In one of his purposes, the Papa explained that a devotee does not act whimsically because he is holistic in his absorption of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he sees everything and anything around him as part and parcel of Krishna's energy, including his body. The body that he carries, although he's a devotee at that high level of caliber, he does not see his body as separate from Krishna's property. So he consciously thinks on how to protect his body for the service of Krishna. We have seen that sometimes someone has an allergy to some kind of food. I remember when we joined devotional service newly, I have some God brothers then who would complain very bitterly every morning because our breakfast most of the time is rice, dal, or rice and sabji. Then why is it that they're always giving us rice every morning? And these devotees will go out of the temple to go and buy boga and eat. Now, one thing one could say is that, oh, this person is in Maya. But if one look at it from the other perspective, if somebody takes a particular kind of food and he purges it, then should he continue to do that? If he does that, will he be able to continue in his service? So the question here is that in devotion and service, from my understanding, we should not compromise the pleasure of Krishna for the purpose of external consideration. And the external consideration is that, okay, now let me give a practical example of what I'm trying to explain. Srila Prabhupada was given an instruction by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to preach in English language. And Srila Prabhupada was preaching in India for 35 years. About 40 years, he was preaching. He was doing every endeavor. He wanted to preach. But whatever effort that Srila Prabhupada made was futile. Futile in the sense that there were no devotees joining, even though his messages were getting to high-class persons. But the kind of manifestation of result that was manifested when he came to the West was not manifested. And when Prabhupada became successful in the West, he went back to India. And in India, that Prabhupada was engaging in service. Prabhupada was preaching directly himself. Nobody was joining. Nobody was following. But after Prabhupada came to the West, he preached. Then he sent his disciples back to India. And his disciples were going to different places. And the persons in India, when they start seeing the Westerners quoting Sanskrit languages, dancing, wearing dhoti, having tilak, having sikha, they became motivated and they start joining the movement in millions, in thousands. But Prabhupada was not able to make them. Then do we say that Prabhupada's effort was not successful while in India? He was successful. But when things are not done in a particular way, the way we want, there could be several reasons why it is not done. So if somebody finds it that the kind of body that is given in his present existence is not it's not compatible with a particular weather, then he says because he wants to do devotional service and he goes there, that will be ignorance. That is the perspective I look at it from. The fact that somebody does not come to Africa because he's scared of malaria does not immediately condemn that person to be in the bodily consciousness, because the body he carries is Krishna's property and he has the responsibility to protect that body for Krishna's service. So he cannot say because Krishna is there, I'm going to Krishna's service, then I should take risk and expose Krishna's property to a great risk. That is the perspective from where I will look at it from. But the fact is that, yes, there are some who naturally take that as an excuse. I'm not saying that there are no persons who will take that as an excuse not to want to go forward to do service. But we cannot outrightly condemn someone because he considered a particular environment incompatible to his body that is carrying in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I don't know whether that answers the question.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Anadi Nidanam, does that help
Hare
with
Krishna.
your question?
No, not to the extent, not fully satisfied, please. Because
Okay. Please, what is the area that
Shumavara Prabhu, do you have
but
something?
I've been
to add?
hearing this. I've been hearing this from other senior devotees that some of the gurus don't want to come to Africa for so and so reasons. But this one in particular, in fact, I cannot comprehend, but yes, I'm trying to, but I'm not fully satisfied yet. So maybe.
Well, I think what Salika Prabhu was saying is that there are different people. Some people may give reasons for reason's sake, and some people may give reason because that is the reality. And so he was giving example how some time ago, some temples were cooking a particular food which was not good for some devotees' health. And so they will go out and buy something else. And some devotees will be thinking, these devotees are not serious. So being a devotee does not mean we should be reckless, like Salika Prabhu was saying. So, well, to me, it is a fact that if you're traveling to a zone that you are not familiar with and you know there is a particular disease that you do not want to catch, why do you go catch it? Now, if one truly wants to go there to do what is needful, then you can also plan how to go there and not catch it, because there are others who are going there and not catching it. So it's up to that particular individual. But for us, as second, third person, looking at what the other person is saying or doing, we should be careful not to outright judge the person that this person is supposed to do things this way and not doing it that way, because we are all individuals. But the most important thing is that we have to take very good care of our physical health also. And that actually leads me to a question that I wanted to ask Salika Prabhu and His Grace Srivastava also, because both of them were saying at some point that the material scientists, what they created is not meant to help us in our spiritual path, but devotees use these material things to serve Guru and Krishna, which is spiritual. And that is also a reflection on what Harichakra Prabhu was asking and saying. How do we know the mentality of the inventor? Because Bhagavad Gita, Salika, you quoted Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 69, where it talks about two types of intelligent people. You know, the first one is intelligent people, material intelligence that help to help the world have what we call like gratify our senses, sense gratification. Now, same Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 talks about the importance of knowing both, Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text 2. Let me see if I can put it up here, which is very interesting. Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, text 2. It says that, I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. Phenomenal pertains to this material world. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that in order for you to be a devotee of me, you should know both this material and the spiritual energies. And so the material energies are being used to help us with sense gratification. And I do not see what is wrong with sense gratification. Is there anything wrong with sense? No, I haven't ended yet. My question is there anything wrong with sense gratification? This is to you and His Grace, because when we talk of sense gratification, it means that We do not want our body, our mind, our emotions to feel hurt. You know, we do not want to walk barefoot. We do not want our bare feet to, we do not use our bare feet to walking around because we'll be stepping on stones, pebbles. It's painful, and so we put on shoes. To me, that is a sense gratification. We do not want to feel hot or cold, and so we put in AC in our rooms. And there is a book His Holiness Sarup Maharaj wrote, and in that book, he shared his experience with Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Maharaj. They were walking down in Texas doing book distribution, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was studying under Sarup Maharaj. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj looked at Sarup Maharaj, and he says to him, Maharaj, who would have ever thought that there is so much gratification in spiritual life? So I would want you to explain why sense gratification is bad when we are always using it.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, please, Sadi Prabhu, I would beg your indulgence because what is his name? Anandini said that he is not satisfied.
Okay.
And now, and it's look like you're brushing it up and going to another big, area. So please, and if this devotee says that he has a kind of, how do you say it? He said he's feeling down.
It's spiritually down. Yes.
And then I think his question cannot be brushed up. You have to see how to lift his spirit up. So if you, I'm sorry, Salika Prabhu has finished speaking, and if Srivas Prabhu wants to say something, I would want him to speak, but if he doesn't have to say something, then I want to say.
Yeah, I agree with you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so maybe you can, I think, Prabhu, you can say something, then Srivas Prabhu also can say something on that.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Maybe if Srivas Prabhu speaks.
He wants Srivas Brahmachari to go first.
Maybe I would not have to say, but let him say something first.
Prabhu, you are muted, yes.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something. Actually, first of all, I want to say that Mahavishnu Maharaj has been to West Africa several times. In fact, he had disciples here in Ghana. But at the moment, only one of them is still come around. Malini Devi Dasi is a disciple of Mahavishnu Swami. Mahavishnu Swami had many disciples, but one by one they've left except Malini. So when Mahavishnu Swami says that because of malaria, he cannot come to Africa or West Africa, he's speaking out of experience. And he's not the only one. There are a number of senior devotees who, for health reasons, they would prefer not to come. In fact, there's one Maharaj, I think he has passed away, Gunagrahi Swami Maharaj. I think he came to Nigeria.
Yes.
And he got malaria. And when he went back, he was admitted in the hospital for several months before he could recover. Even His Holiness Kavichandra Maharaj, when he came here first, he left with malaria and was in coma in Germany. So there are instances where some of our foreign devotees came here and they were knocked down, almost killed by malaria. You see, the African has a natural resistance against malaria. If an African is bitten by mosquitoes, even without taking medicine, he would fight, his system will fight it. But for the white blood, malaria is a devastation. If treatment is not fast and to the point, he can leave his body. So when devotees hear these situations, these incidences, they prefer not to venture here because it is a risk. So that risk element is what we have to look at. If there is what is called reasonable risk and unreasonable risk. A risk that you will take that would end your life and completely knock you out of the preaching field is an unnecessary risk. But a risk that you will take that at the end you will survive and expand the preaching or expand your objectives, your goals, that is reasonable risk. Even in business, there is reasonable risk and unreasonable risk. In everything we do, these two things are there. So you have to take a risk that is reasonable and that would allow you to make progress. So we should not feel bad if certain devotees, because of their health situation, they may have a very weak immunity system or immune system, and therefore any little infection will finish them. So is it better they come to Africa and die soon or remain where they are and preach? Which one do we choose? Obviously, the latter. Let them stay where they are, maintain their bodies, and spread Krishna consciousness where possible. Instead of saying because devotees in Africa need preachers, they need senior devotees, they should come and die the next day, then we lose them. So I think, and I didn't need the name, you should not consider or get run down because Mahavishnu Swami made that statement. I've also had a number of senior devotees who we invited to Africa, and they plainly told me that, Prabhu, we would love to come. It's nice to come, but my health situation is not good. I don't want to mention names here, but very great personalities, very exalted devotees. We've approached them and they said, look, I would love to come. I will want to see what is happening in West Africa, but my health is so poor. If I go there, that'll be the end of me. So what do you do about that? So don't get disappointed, discouraged, downhearted, because Mahavishnu Swami has made that statement. He has been here 3 or 4 times. Actually, this Lord Krishna Academy, without him, it would have been difficult for us to start. When he came and saw that we had some children, we giving them classes in the Govinda store. That time it was the guest room, it was the reception. So we had some children that were giving them classes there in the evenings. And so Maharaj said, you want to run a school? I said, yes, but we don't have teachers. He said, oh, I have a disciple. Actually, at that time, Ila had not been initiated. She was still a Bhaktin. So she said, I have an aspiring disciple who is a professional teacher. So if you don't mind, I can arrange for you to come to Ghana and get the school started. And so that's how Ila Devi Dasi became the first principal of our Lord Krishna's Academy and got the school together. So if Mahavishnu Swami says, because of malaria, he will not come, he came, he got experience, he almost died. So should he come and die, or should he remain where he is and preaching? So that shouldn't discourage you so much because of health situation. Even we Africans, there are also some places we cannot go. We may not know, but there are certain places you can't survive. And so you should not risk going to those places where you can survive. Of course, the other side of the coin is that I know what is worrying you. A devotee of that caliber should not be scared by any situation. That is what it means. Because he has reached a certain level, he should not be afraid of any situation. Like the case of Brahmananda and his brother Gagamuni. When Prabhupada said they should go to Pakistan, they went, even though they knew it was dangerous. And in fact, later on, Srila Prabhupada was, when he heard that some 2 Americans were killed in Pakistan, he was worried. He was thinking, I shouldn't have allowed these devotees to go to Pakistan, knowing that it's a Muslim country, and any Hindu they see, they'll kill him. Why do I send them there? And Srila Prabhupada was relieved when he heard that Brahmananda and the brother had entered India. They had returned to India, and they were calling from somewhere to inform Prabhupada that they have come back. Those people they killed, they were not the ones they killed. Prabhupada was relieved, and he was so happy. So just to let you understand that there are certain circumstances or situations that one must avoid if it is going to lead to the end of your life. Why do we have to commit suicide instead of, by going to certain places, instead of remaining on the planet Earth to propagate Krishna consciousness in the little corners that we may be? So I don't know whether this will help Anandini Nidanam Prabhu, or he still needs further elaboration. Then Varaha Prabhu could go ahead and fill in the gap.
Thank you very much.
So much, His Grace. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, because actually, I think we need that positive way of saying it, which you've really done, and especially the fact that Mahavishnu had been here before. However, I really want to lift up Anandini's Prabhu's spirit by also adding some point. And one is, there's no, historically, we learned and we know that many missionaries, Christian missionaries, died in Africa.
Yeah.
And today, for one reason or the other, we have seen African benefiting from those sacrifices. For them, they took it up like, life and soul. That's one. Second point, which also may be very disturbing, because sannyasi means we already you've taken enter into the order of social society. That's how it's described. Sannyas. Sannyas means you have no attachment to this life any longer. So you're already dead. That's how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj describes sannyas. So if sannyasis are having such fear, that is also a concern. Then the last point is actually a story of missionaries going to a land. They're going to a place where most missionaries are not welcomed. But missionaries were not welcome at all, So, and then they have to cross a river to get there. So when these 2 missionaries enter into the boat, and then the captain said, "You guys, you are missionaries. You know where you're going? That place, people like you are not welcome. In fact, death is the result." So he said, "I'm doing you this good to inform you if you don't know." And then the missionaries said, "Oh, thank you for that information. We are already dead. We're already dead." You understand? So there's no need to fear going to die there, because this life we have accepted means we're already dead. So thank you, but we're still going. So this is the spirit, missionary spirit, that one should not let any circumstances to hinder that service that can be done to save many souls. But all the reasons Srivas Prabhu has given, they're also valid. Of course, they're very also important. Health, Prabhupada used to say health first. Nonetheless, we don't want to be discouraged hearing that those who are missionaries are fearing certain situations and they don't want to go preach there. That could be very discouraging. So no, I'm with you on that point. And especially sannyasis, they should not exit that kind of fear. And we have seen in the life of many other missionaries that they're ready to take this unreasonable risk, as Prabhu said. They're ready to take this unreasonable risk just to save souls. And then, Krishna himself will decide whether it is unreasonable risk or not. So anyway, Anandini, I'm with you on that point. And I hope you have got enough points to lift your spirit up. Thank you, Sahadev Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. It's Grace, Srimad Varaha, Srimad. And Anadinidanam, please.
Yes, bro. Yes, I must attest to the fact that at least it was here. At least that helps me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. He was here in Africa several times before, so I think that's okay. That serves the point.
Not only in Ghana, Nigeria also was here. Let me experience with you. And I didn't know Prabhu.
Yeah, go ahead. He's listening.
Oh, my network is getting so bad.
Yeah, I'm listening, Prabhu.
Yeah, you see, just to, I think our two senior God brothers have given you a very, but I'll just share a practical story. One personal, one for another devotee, and just for you to something to think about. In 2006, we did the Pranapasista, the installation of ISKCON Just deities. And one of my God brothers here, it's not somebody, maybe probably you may not have met him or something, but you must have heard his name. His name is Kamalaksha Prabhu. Kamalaksha Prabhu is a Nigerian. It's not even a Ghanaian, it's not another country. It's a Nigerian, born in Nigeria, grew up in Nigeria, lived in Nigeria all his life. But he came to Jos, and then
internet. Yeah, his connection is not helping today.
It's weak.
Yeah, it's weak. But it's interesting. See, our body, the bodies we had yesterday is not the same the body we have today. So if Mahavishnu used to come to Ghana, I mean, we all loved his kirtans so much. And so if he says what Kavichandra Maharaj was saying about him, then it means that he knows his body. He knows what his body is telling him. And I do not think, no matter who or how you call yourself, if you know there is a problem your body may not be able to withstand, you still have to go in. If we didn't have devotees there running the show, then you may say you want to sacrifice. But we have devotees, we have gurus, we have sannyasis there. So what is the need? If there is none, then one may try to risk. Some of us are, I don't know whether it's appropriate to say mad, but some of us are very, very much unhappy with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, because he knew that he was coming to the US, and that time the pandemic was very heavy, bad here. And okay, is your thing working now, Salika? Well, Bhakti Charu Maharaj came to US here, and then he got the COVID. And of course, we know it's Krishna's plan, but that is not what we would have loved it to be. But it's no more with us, He wanted to come. I mean, nobody forced him. He wanted to come. So if Mahavishnu Maharaj or whoever is not prepared to go to the war front in that manner, it should be understood. I hope, Anadini, you understand, as our two great devotees have already shared with us all. And see, when somebody asks a question, it's more likely that it's asking on behalf of many others. Because if you have such feeling, there is the likelihood that some other devotee may also have the same feeling. So it's an answer for every devotee who may have such feelings. Salika, are you back?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, sir.
Hare Krishna, Shriman Hari.
Yeah, one quick example that I want to put in. That one is not, it was not even a guru, it was us. Some of the devotees, Varaha was our head in 1996 when we were doing the Prabhupada Padayatra.
Okay.
And we were on our way to Sierra Leone. And we had gotten to Sierra Leone. And there is one city that we had to go through to come to the main city. That town's name is Waterloo. So when we got there, we were crazy. We just wanted to get to the Freetown, no matter what. And you know how Varaha is the warrior. He was leading us, so we were so determined to go. But we went to a place and the people were advising us that, look, you people should not travel this night. It's not safe. But we were bent on going. Finally, Varaha Prabhu and the other leaders, they agreed. They said, okay, we will sleep and go the next morning. And you know, if we had gone that night, all of us would have been dead. Because there is a barrier that we were supposed to cross. And at that night, they said the rebels attacked the barrier. And so there was a shootout between the government forces and the rebels. And if we had moved that night, we would have gone straight into the crossfire. You see, so sometimes Krishna also gives us intelligence to decide what to do, because if Varaha and as a leader had not decided that we should sleep, we shouldn't travel that night, and we had gone, today I wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
All glories to Sri Guru and Krishna for safeguarding you all. Hare Krishna. Salika, are you
Thank you very
back?
much for that narration, Bishop Prabhu. Yeah, ultimately, Krishna consciousness is about always thinking about Krishna.
I think you were giving us a story about Kamalaksha.
There are certain
you are telling us something about Kamalaksha Prabhu.
In 2006, when we were going to do Pranam for Sisters, so all of the devotees, Srivas Banachari Prabhu was also there, and Namapi Varaha Prabhu also was there. And Kamalaksha didn't want to come. I didn't know the reason why he didn't want to come, but he has asked several times from people about the fear of cold in Jos. It's not like Jos of today. It was still very cold there. So, but eventually, because everybody said everybody has to go, so he came. And we were in Mangalati one morning, one of the days during the program.
Again, same problem.
Yeah.
Merci. Hello, Hare Krishna.
You may turn off your video,
Can you hear me?
Shri Salika.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I think it's my mistake. I'm suffering the consequences of my mistake. I forgot to plug my Wi-Fi, so it went off. And then since I plugged it back, it's misbehaving. So anyway, so Kamalaksha Prabhu will not come. Then eventually he came. So I think the second, the third day we were Mangalati. If not for the intervention of Krishna and Mataji that was in the kitchen, she just decided to go and check. Kamalaksha was already freeze. And it took the intervention of several interventions that day to save his life. He would have died. And later, several days after, I was asking him, I said, Prabhu, what really happened? He said, you know, that's why I said I didn't want to come to Jos, because I know my body and cold does not go together. But because it became a compulsory that every devotee has to come, so that's why I came. But I'm happy that I didn't die there, because you have spoiled everything. So the reality is this, that one has to use intelligence to do things. Sometimes there are practical realities for the purpose of greater service, as it has been in the case of Gunagai Maharaj. And I remember very, very well, I was in Lagos when Maharaj came that time, and then we knew what happened. So sometimes one has to, and then practically myself, while living in Jos, for the period I've stayed here, I've been attacked, lie down on the road within Jos, Kano, Jos, Kaduna time, 4 times with AK-47 on my head. And since 2017, the last time, I decided I would never travel by road again, and I've not traveled by road since then. So in 2021, last year or year before, Yaduna Prabhu came to Kaduna, and they were going to have a 7-day program Harinam in Kaduna, and he said, Salika, you are the closest temple, you should come. So I said I will not come. And he said, well, I said, well, if you have seen what I have seen, then you will not advise me. I'm not saying that I can protect myself. If I'm going to leave my body today, Krishna can decide that. But I think to me, it will be tempting Krishna if I go the next time, because the last experience was like the final notification, because it happened the first time, the second time, the third time, the 4th time I escaped it. I'm not confident that if I get the next experience, I will survive it. So I will not try it again. And I think that is when that my not going to Kaduna was reported to some of my senior godbrother. He said, I'm in the bodily consciousness. I said, yes, I'm still a condition soul. In fact, I'm a Gramedi, so I'm enjoying my senses, I'm enjoying my body. So sometimes reality will tell you, because ultimately the body is Krishna's property, and we don't want to risk it unnecessarily.